mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation, and welcome back to episode number 104 of the Night at Ones podcast. It's another tough week of the season, but we're gonna go through it with you. A reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN and hoops analyst, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer, and IG star shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70+ teams and conferences on the College Huddle. I completely messed that up. Obviously, I was as messed up as what our offense was in the first half of the last game. So we'll talk about that and more. We'll preview Kansas for this week, which we'll be playing, and then talk about some other UCF information. But before we do that, let's go ahead and bring our team to the stage. Representing Kansas as a former player and giving us the lowdown, but a UCF fan, AP from KC, welcome back to the stage.
Hey, well, I have my UCF stuff. I should have worn a Kansas shirt, I guess, since I'm doing that. But
we'll take the UCF gear any day of the week. I would tell you or ask you to do the hair flip, but there's not much doing there. It's more like the hat flip, like last week. All right, next to the stage, someone you all know. Last but not least, Josh Lazar.
Well, Tim from Florida may be in the comments soon, but he'll be happy that I'm not rapping today, I guess. So that'll be good. And truth be told, fortunately or unfortunately, I did not get to see that game too much of it because I had my daughter's sports to go to. So I don't even have a lot of great stuff for the text talk. Well, maybe one or two things.
Well, we'll definitely get into the text talk. There were some interesting conversations. There was hope for the future. There was hope for the game, and that kind of went back and forth, right? Because for parts of the game, it looked like we were coming back. Then that didn't end up working out, and then ultimately we know where it ended. But this game for me, it was about signs of life. And my text talk that I said is that this team will still win some games. And I do believe that. I think that as bad as we came out offensively, we were completely out of sorts, not just on the line, but, Coach Scott Frost talked a lot about how even the receivers, they were calling some off-sheet plays, and the receivers didn't remember the play, so they didn't know where to be. So you saw, a few delay games, which is interesting. We'll talk about that. But you also saw a lot of shifting going on, and Jackson out there directing traffic. And it sounds like a part of that is because they didn't know what routes to run on one of those last plays that we had. We had two receivers in the same place, and you obviously know one of them screwed up their route tree if they both ended up in the same place at the same time. Yeah. So, Josh, did you find a text talk that you wanted to talk about or no?
Let's see. Not looking at the chatter score. Hopefully I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. Roger Phipps said nope. I think it was like we were down by 10 or 17 or something. And then my next one was WTF happened to TJ's shoulder. And basically, I only saw scores. I actually watched none of the live game. I usually don't do that, but just happened this week. And it seemed from someone who was just looking at the scores that there was this lull of TJ hurting shoulder, Jakari coming back in and doing great for one play, and then like not so much the rest of the time. TJ coming back and not getting over the.
Whoops, sorry about that.
Listen.
I honestly didn't mean to do that. That was a mistake.
Okay,
I was trying to mute Andrew because he was pouring water and it was like
sure. But
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
all
I
good.
felt like at like the fourth quarter, just looking at the scores, like there's momentum, and I think there was a turnover at the end, which probably was one of the routes you're talking about. So I'm not going to talk much about this game because I didn't see it from that perspective. But from a text talk, I usually have this thing where I go on Do Not Disturb. I do not look at my phone, and I tell the people around me not to talk about the game. They're usually pretty good at it. What I didn't realize is that for my business on my team, I hired too many UCF fans and former alumni in a good way and a bad way when they all text me like, "What that is going on in this game?" So maybe I have to mute that.
yeah, mute the chat. Andrew, did you have a text talk for us this week?
Well, one thing that I said during the game is I stand by 4 and 8. Just the way that things are going, especially. I think the thing that I said before that was the O-line will hurt us all season. O-line is just not good. It's causing problems, obviously. Run game hasn't been there for the most part. So I think that's really what's lacking as far as consistency goes. The defense, they didn't stop the run real great in this last one, but I think the O-line is the glaring problem. I'm going to give them a little bit of a break because of what they've been through. They've been through a lot with their coach passing away and all that stuff. And, he was sick a little bit before that, so there's been a few weeks of inconsistency. Now they have new coaches in place, multiple coaches to replace the one that worked with Sean a lot. So
that was Coach Hope coming in, who was former head coach, I think, at Vanderbilt, or Purdue. I can't remember which.
Purdue, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's going to add a little bit of consistency now. So hopefully they can get that turned around because that's going to be a real problem, even more so than it was last week.
Yeah, and what's funny about that, about the running game, right? We hit some big hitters, especially in the second half. The running game started to get going. Believe it or not, Miles Montgomery was 10 carries for 119 yards, averaged 11.9 yards per carry. Jaden Nixon, 66 yards for 13.2 yards per carry and a TD. Miles had a 45 long, and Jaden Nixon had 54. But that was really it. We ended up, believe it or not, with 205 yards on the ground, which is surprising given how slowly we started in the first half. However, on the passing side of the game, Taven Jackson, 12 of 24, so 50% passing, 115 yards. What really stood out to me was 4.8 yards per attempt, 0 TDs, 1 interception, a 17.2 QBR, followed up by Ja'Curry Brown, 1 for 2 of 50%, which is right on par for him. 82 yards, 41-yard average, 1 TD, 1 interception, and a QBR of 4.4. Let's be real. Few things on both sides of the lines, right? We said that this game was going to go the way of the trenches. Unfortunately, on the offensive line, we didn't do a great job. We weren't picking up stunts. Coach Scott Frost said in his press interview after the game, or this morning in the preview, he talked a little bit about how the offensive line just was not picking up those plays and wasn't seeing them, and then wasn't reacting the right way to them. And then as far as the D-line was concerned, the D-line was making some noise. We had QB hurries, we had sacks, we had pressures that were resulting in turnovers. We had that one pick early on by Damari Henderson. But even Coach Frost threw some shade at the refs this morning when he was asked about it during his presser. And basically he said, when he was asked about it, he can't disparage the refs for the Big 12. But what he did say was, if I told the ref, if that's what holding is, then I need to teach I have some teaching to do for my offensive line, right? So basically saying that was terrible. I've never seen so many defensive linemen end up getting tackled. And I'm not joking about that. Literally tackled to the ground. It seemed like every play. I know that, we should be able to fight through it, but realistically, that was probably the most horrific, refereeing that I've seen since we even joined the Big 12 conference. And it's been bad the whole time. So you can't, if you're a D lineman and you're being tackled to the ground from behind, Horace Lockett was getting some pressure. He came free. Literally, I watched him get tackled. That was one of my text talks as well, tackled from the back. And, Brandon Helwig reported earlier that UCF was not happy. They've been in contact with the Big 12 office over this game because it was just atrocious. I mean, there was no legitimate excuse for how that game was called. There's just none. And there was only one holding call called on them, and that was when they were on the goal line for a TD. So, I don't know how you call a game that lopsided. Now, speaking of penalties, there was a game-killing drive where we had, in this game, we had 2 delay of game penalties. And then we had holding calls, etc., that pushed back another TD. It was almost like in this game, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. DJ Black drops a touchdown that turns into a 14-point swing. I don't know how you, as a D1 receiver, we've said, this season he's had a challenge with drops. But I don't know how you drop that TD. It was right in his hands. As a D1 receiver, you should be able to catch that ball. And everybody says, well, he came from, I think it was Limestone or wherever. Well, before he was at Limestone, he was at another school that was a D1 program and a power program. So, he's got the tools. He should be able to catch a ball like that. And it was just inexcusable. The thing that I saw, and Coach Scott Frost also kind of pointed out, was the receivers were giving up on routes. They were winded by the third or fourth quarter. And they were confused, like I said earlier, on some of the routes because they didn't know the plays outside of the play sheet for that week. And so that was interesting. But I think the coaching staff, and specifically the offensive coaching staff, was looking for something to get a spark because we were doing absolutely nothing in the first half offensively. What did you guys take away from the from the offensive play, and then maybe even the first half and the second half?
Well, can I ask one quick question, and AP could take the rest of it? Because again, I didn't see it, but what I saw from the text and things was like, it seemed, did the entire offense kind of break down when TJ hurt his shoulder? Like,
it was before that.
Before that,
it was before that. But yeah, I mean, as far as someone who's coming in as a reliever, in this case Jakuri, right? Yeah. He just, I don't know why I said reliever, backup. He just did not play well. You saw the quarterback stats. He had one pass, and that one pass, I put it in the text talk where we were talking about that pass that was a TD pass. He was trying to throw over the shoulder. Trey said, well, that was an over the shoulder throw, etc. It was, but he didn't push it far enough down the field. The receiver had to turn around and caught it like this. So yes, he was throwing the right throw. He just didn't get enough air under it. And we were lucky that turned into a touchdown. But Jakuri just did not do well. He didn't do well on the ground. He fumbled the ball. He had an interception. It was a 4.4 QBR rating, should tell you everything that you need to know. I don't think I've ever seen one that low.
Yeah, he was only in there for a very limited amount of plays, but we always have, his throwing has been questionable, or he would probably be in a much better position than he is if he could throw the way that he can run.
And he's got an arm. He's just not very accurate. He averages 53% on the year for completed passes.
Yeah, well, he throws wild pitches a lot. So I thought that would get a little bit better, and I was kind of excited to see if that was going to be a little bit better because you knew that we were going to have to throw at that point. Luckily, Taven Jackson is an absolute stud for going to the locker room and then coming out after that injury because that is a painful injury. And, obviously I think I said in the text as well, oh, the shot worked.
Yep.
Because he came out. I'm sure he got some kind of a pain shot in there to be able to do that. But it really didn't affect him very much. You didn't see anyway that it affected him that much. And he was able to hold on to the ball and everything else. So that was a good thing. I'm going to go back to the offensive line and the rushing average because you brought up Miles Montgomery getting, I guess, he's got 51 carries for 268 yards. He's only averaging 5.3. Now, 5.3 is a lot better than it was earlier in the year, earlier in the games. So, it's getting a little bit better. But, man, Jaden Nixon, and yes, he's had, that long one of 87 yards. So this is going to throw his stats off a little bit. And one of the other things that I said in the text is Jaden Nixon needs to play way, way, way more. 16 carries for 226 yards in total this year and 14.1 average. Yes, he doesn't get it as much compared to Miles Montgomery needing 51 carries for 268 yards. Yes, you can see how that happens because Miles is the one in there most of the time, obviously, and Jaden comes in and does something crazy every once in a while. But I think they need to spread that out a little bit more. I love Miles Montgomery. I'm not saying anything bad about him at all. He is awesome. Like, he's a really good dude. But I think Jaden Nixon has a little bit more than he does right now. So I would like to see them spread that ball around a little bit more, and I think that would help tremendously.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, between those two is all I was going to say.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, right, when you're talking about the running game for UCF, Miles Montgomery, what he did well in this game was he was more patient and he picked better holes. So he looked way better this game than he did. And, if you were going to make a change, it's really tough to make a change when your primary back has a 11-yard average this game. To your point, all year long, it hasn't been that great. He's been averaging 3-4 yards per carry, right? But in this game, 10 carries for 119 yards and 11.9 yard average with a 45 long. So
that 45 though throws off a lot of that stat. I mean, throws off.
Well, even if it didn't, it's still 5.75 yards per carry, right? So that's a good running back. That's a good starting running back. The only problem that I see, despite having the time of possession, it started the first half, I think it was like 8. We had 8 minutes time of possession in the entire half out of 30. Whereas, after the game, we held the ball a lot longer, had longer drives. It was 27 minutes and 51 seconds versus 32 minutes and 9 seconds, right? And if you look at the stats themselves, they aren't that different. The yards per attempt average for us was 7.6 versus their 6.5. We had 402 total yards this game versus their 434. They doubled us up on third downs and fourth downs. And I think that was the biggest difference is we couldn't sustain those drives. We made silly mistakes. We had drops, or we did different things to ourselves penalty-wise. We had 6 for 45. It seemed like a lot more during the game, but we were doing things that set those back. So our third down efficiency has been all season about 40-ish%, and you will win football games at 40-ish%. Our third down percentage or third down stats this week, 3 for 13 and 0 for 2 on fourth. Now we were making over, I think it was like 70% of our fourth down attempts before this game. They stuffed them. Kansas State, on the other hand, had 21 first downs. So they had 7 more first downs than we did. 6 of 14 and 1 of 2, right? So we righted the ship when it came to time of possession. We went back to the running game, which is how Army beat them and the previous North Dakota State beat them before. Just early on, we could not get anything going in the run game. We didn't take advantage of the interception early. Had we turned those into a touchdown, I think Kansas State plays a little bit more from behind. They clearly had something set up for us, at least in the first half, that we had not seen before. We made the adjustments defensively when they started using their second quarterback as a running back. They did that early on. They hadn't done that all season. And, in the second half, we were able to stuff that. We didn't do much about it on the first half, and it allowed them to sustain drives. The other thing is they ran Avery Johnson. What did our K-State guys say? They haven't been running him. They've been keeping him in the pocket. Had he stayed in the pocket, we would have gotten more pressure on him, and this might have been a different outcome, at least for the first half. And then secondarily, 3 turnovers to 1. We lost the turnover battle. So that's 2 extra possessions. The drop pass that we had turned into an interception or fumble, I can't remember, that went the other way for points. So that was a 14-point swing in a game that was 34-20. We were driving on another drive, got stalled out, got stopped on 4th down on a 4th and 1. So each time that we do that, this game could have very easily been won by UCF, but we just made way too many mistakes, too many turnovers, and mental mistakes in this game to win. Now, what does that mean, in the future? I think that this team has shown to me that they're further ahead than we thought they were going to be, especially at the beginning of the season offensively with Taven Jackson. However, and I think they can be competitive, and I do think that they're getting better. 34, everybody's railing on the defense. The defense did fairly well. Yes, they gave up 200 yards, 230 yards or something rushing, 266 yards rushing. And they got whipped on the lines in the first half, but they did a pretty good job in the second half. So, for me, I wouldn't read too much into this, but what I am worried about is next week's game against Kansas. And the reason I'm worried about that is because you've got another mobile quarterback, but this one can throw the ball too. So, when we're looking at defensively, there's a few things to look at. One, we had 58 total tackles. Antoine Jackson was a beast this game. 8 solo tackles this game. 8. Braden Marshall had a tackle for a loss. He was 6 for 6. We've been waiting on him to show up. He looked like he showed up this game. Lewis Carter played fairly well. 6 tackles, 5 solo. Kelly Lawson had a rough game. There were some run fits that he was scraping on where he just completely got fooled. And with some of the motion where they were cutting back inside. And quite frankly, their O-line outside of the, their O-line outside of the rampant holding, which a lot of their big plays that sprung for big plays, there was rampant holding on. They manhandled our guys. Kansas State looked like on both sides of the line that they came out tougher in that first half than what UCF did, but UCF swung back. To your point, Andrew, I agree about Jackson, though. I mean, it took a lot of cojones.
Beep.
Yeah, exactly.
Inside joke if you haven't heard that story.
Yep. To come back out there after that type of injury and play. He must have got the cortisol shot and came out. They popped it back into place, got a cortisone shot, and came back out and played the game. And yes, he had mobility, but still, he said after the game too, it hit every time he got hurt. And I have no doubt about that.
So I was just looking at the PFF scores for this game. Overall offensive grade, we've been averaging 70-ish, 71 a couple times. 71 the last 2 games, 71.1 North Carolina AT. North Carolina was 71. This game was 53.3, which is below average. That's bad. And that tells you a lot of it right there. These, stats or grades are really telling of a lot of things. The quarterback play, both of them were in, Jakuri was 37.4, but Taven wasn't much better, only being 44.7. So quarterback play was pretty bad. But then, the offensive line, there's only a couple people. Jabari Brooks was one that only played, let's see, I can't do
22
math.
snaps.
What's that?
He played 22 snaps.
In total. So 14 for run blocking and 8 for pass blocking. He ranked the highest out of everybody. In run blocking, 72.5, but in pass blocking, 80.6. The next closest offensive lineman to him was Grant Memelar, and 69.2. So that dude needs to play some more, for sure. He needs to be in there. And then, we look at I wanted to look at the rushing grades again here because we're talking about this. Jaden Nixon, 72.9. Miles Montgomery, 70.4. Not a huge difference there, but definitely a difference. And then Jaden Nixon on the receiving grades was the highest as well, 73.6. So I just would like to see him get the ball more no matter what. You get your playmakers the ball. He's obviously a playmaker. I'm going to just talk about that until I make it happen somehow. Hopefully somebody will be listening.
I will say this. Jaden Nixon is a better blocker than what Miles Montgomery is. That's one of the things that Miles, he's got.
Well, not in the first game, the second series or the first series when he whiffed on that block that got our starting quarterback hurt.
I agree with you there, but
missed that one completely. That was 100% his fault, in my opinion.
Outside of that one, and that may be why he hasn't gotten as many snaps, because our offensive line is not as is not as good this year. We know that, right? And we're doing a lot of zone blocking schemes because of that as well, right? So our blocking schemes are not as complicated as what they typically have been, just simply because the line is not as good as we typically have either. The other thing we were missing was our tight end. Our tight end that transferred from Florida, he went out last week. Dylan Wade, he went out last week, and he'd been a favorite safety valve and someone that caught the ball very, very well in traffic the last few games, and he was out this week, and it showed. Our tight end from a catching perspective, Fox is good, but a lot of times we would have Wade and Fox out there both at the same time, and they would cover one and the other would be open, and that sprung some things for us as well. Wade and Charles, actually, our freshman receiver, was the number one run blocker. Yep. Believe it or not,
82.3, real high.
Yeah,
real high. That's listed in the PFF. If you don't know the PFF, 80 to 89 is great. 70 to 79 good. 60 to 69 average or above average. 50 to 59 below average. 49 and below poor, and 90 and above elite. So he's getting into that great status.
I do think
he's not a big dude either.
I do think what we are seeing is the difference that Sean Beckton is making in blocking for the wide receivers and the tight ends has gone way up. Wide receiver Wade and Charles was number one in PFF. Wide receiver Dwayne Thomas Jr., who we haven't talked about him at all. He is a spark plug when it comes to the offense. I mean, he's all over the field. He's catching passes. He's a small guy, right? Scat back guy. But go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just talking about him. I've been trying to figure out who was the Otis Anderson on this team, because Scott Frost always had a guy like Otis Anderson that could do both things and could do both things well. And I think it's him. Not quite, what Otis was, obviously, but I think he's that guy. I think that I've just been trying to, compare what we had, because we had that awesome Otis Anderson and Adrian Killens thing going on in the backfield. And I guess Nixon maybe is the Killens because he's fast like that. But I think Thomas Jr., and I think you're going to see a lot more of him getting worked into the thing, but I think he's going to play that role.
Yeah.
Never compare him to Otis Anderson, rest his soul. But, I think that he's going to fill that spot.
Well, we had Marcus Burke has been doing the sweeps and end arounds and stuff that we traditionally play. But Dwayne Thomas Jr., a lot of times they'll have him try to get the ball in space within 10 yards. I talked about that last week as well. But he does line up wide every once in a while too, and he can catch the ball there too. He's just shorter, and it's tough because he's a little bit shorter on the wideout side of things. The other thing that I kind of want, but going back to my point, like it's Charles, then Thomas Jr., then Burke, and Kylan Fox, all in the 60s. Or Kylan Fox is 67.3, Burke 62.2. The blocking has gotten so much better this year and this season, and even throughout this season, than when it has been in the back. And that's in the past. And that's typically something that we are really, really, really good at and have been good at. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys, we saw Stacey Gage this week. First time we saw him, freshman Stacey Gage. We've heard a lot about him. He was hurt. Now he's starting to find his way into the rotation. He was a hard runner. He's not the biggest guy, but he was a 4-star back, but he just kept those legs pumping and he kept the pile moving. So I'd like to actually, when we're talking about running backs, I'd like to see Stacey Gage get a few more snaps as well. There just haven't been a lot of opportunities for the running backs outside of blocking. On receiving grades, Jaden Nixon, like you said, was number 1, followed by Burke, then Miles Montgomery, Dwayne Thomas Jr., and then DJ Black. Wayden Charles has been really, really good for us. He's the freshman phenom that they were talking about. He just didn't have a great game this game. DJ Black, again, speed guy, can get open. He just, unfortunately, just did not. He has a problem with drops. He's one of those guys that has a problem with drops. He can catch some passes, but there are times where it hits him in the numbers and he's still dropping the passes. So I think I saw 2 drops this week, maybe 3, versus previous weeks where we were averaging 2 to 3 drops. But this week it just didn't matter. Jackson was off. When he came in, you could still tell his touch and his timing was off with the receivers. And then the other thing you could tell, like Scott Frost said, they were trying to shake things up with stuff off the call sheet and different looks that they hadn't shown. And the receivers just didn't know where to be. They were running the wrong route, not where they were supposed to be. And with when you're talking about the passing game, the quarterback has to anticipate and usually releases even before the receiver actually takes a look and looks back for the ball. So he has to know that they're going to be where he's expecting them to be. And that just didn't happen this week. All right. As defensively, Sincere Edwards again had some good play this week. Jaden Bellamy, 71.8 as a defensive back. Cornerback with 68 snaps. Nigel Kelly, he played his tail off. 61 snaps, 72.8. He was in the backfield. What I liked this week is in the second half, we made the adjustment, and sometimes the ends are not rushing and they're actually there to cover the edge. And this week, Malachi Lawrence and Nigel Kelly, they both have speed. They both did that really, really well. They came off of their blocks, maintained the edge, chased down Avery Johnson, etc., because those guys, Avery Johnson is known to run sideline to sideline. And then in the second half, one of the things that our K-State guy told us, Avery Johnson has been off on the passing game. First half, he was almost perfect. Second half, you could see some of what he was talking about because he was off on some of those throws, and that slowed their offense down. But they played really, really, really well in the first half. So Jaden Williams was out and DJ Bell was out. I told you that might be a problem for us, and it was. I think if DJ Bell was back, between Bell and Bellamy, we have a really good 1-2 punch there. And I think we were missing him this week. So linebacker, again, Kozlowski played really, really well this week. He showed he knew where to be, etc. And as far as pressures were concerned, Malachi Lawrence, when it comes to sacks, hits, and hurries, Malachi Lawrence had 4, Nigel Kelly and Kelly Lawson had 2, Sincere Edwards, Cole Kozlowski, and Horace Lockett had 1 apiece. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about this K-State game, to me, it was a combination of the offense just was in a rut the first half. So we were playing from behind. We made too many mistakes. I mean, you had that drop in the end zone that turned into a 14-point swing. And ultimately, we killed ourselves on penalties, etc., as well. This was still, despite all of that, this was still, I think, a winnable game. We would have been within 1 score. I kept saying that this should be a 3-point game. This should be a 7-point game. So by and large, this team could win this game again if we played again. We just didn't play clean football this week. And in previous weeks, for the most part, at least against UNC, we played clean football. What else did you guys see on this game?
Well, I can tell you that Kansas State did a lot of work in the bye week that they had, obviously, because they were a different team. I've called them the worst team in the Big 12 pretty much all season, and they came out and played like we kind of expected them to play when they were ranked at the beginning of the year and everything else. So they obviously went to work, so we were the team to get them after their bye week, and I think that really helped them out.
Yeah, and Kleeman showed different looks offensively than what he'd shown all season long. I think the biggest thing for me is it was a tale of two halves. The second half, we played a whole lot better than we did the first half. The first half was just a mess. Alan says UNC sucks. Hey, Alan, if you guys remember, Alan is one of the guys from the Heel Brothers. So thanks for letting us know. Alan, I don't know, man. I think you guys were off this week. Don't you play Clemson this week as well? So put that in the note or in the chat. But no, I don't think it was so much UNC sucks or that was an indicative of why we were successful last week versus this. I think this week just I think this week we were just off. Part of it, we had lost a head coach, or not a head coach, our line coach. And they just came out and they weren't ready. The second half, if they would have played like the second half and the first half, it would have been better. And then we just made mistakes. But all right, Josh, anything else you want to kind of talk about? I know you've been hearing us talk about it, but anything that you want to bring to the table?
Yeah, I wish I could do more because I didn't do as much homework and watching as all of you did. But I will tell you this. Jackson having an injury and an issue and coming back in is positive. Looking at the score the first half, again, just from not watching the game and seeing what happened in the second half, that's positive. I mean, you try to do what you can to bring anything positive you can from a loss. I will tell you this. I think it's very clear from anyone who's a UCF fan. Last year, maybe even 2 years ago, that would have been a 50-point loss, maybe a 40-point loss. the team would have gotten down in the dumps. They wouldn't have fought back and could have phoned it in by the second half. And even when Trey was on the field talking about that and seeing that, or seeing it observationally on TV, he would give back that feedback on the podcast. So everything I was talking about, and others have been talking about too, still reigns true. The team is fighting for each other. The team is playing together. The team has resiliency. It feels different than in the past couple of years. Now, will that mean we're still 4-8 like AP thinks? Maybe. Do I think we're as bad as what it seems like it was, at least for 2+ quarters? Maybe. But the positivity of what seems to have happened after they're punched in the mouth and fought back is just not something we've seen since the last time Frost was here. Or maybe early in Gus's tenure, when you had that same George O'Leary trained with Frost freedom equals 2017 team. And then maybe Frost freedom plus Gus a little bit more the same and probably better talent than the conference. Pretty good year or two. So I feel like this is kind of where we're at. And if I have to, as a fan, choose between a team that gets a lot of good preseason rankings and falls flat when pressure takes hold versus a team that fights and wants to work together and is playing like a team, I love wins and losses like the next person, but I want that team. I want that team to represent my university. And I know that kind of gets lost in all of this, but
I agree.
All of us graduated, right? We're not T-shirt fans.
Well, AP didn't. AP graduated.
Oh yeah, but
he's put in the reps. I'll give him that. He's put in the reps. It's not like Kansas is a bad school in any way, shape, or form. So that's what I think fans want to see again. And for that specifically, I feel good. Outcome being the outcome.
Yeah, I think this team's better than that. AP, I don't agree with that take on the 4-8. I still think this is a bowl team. And you may be right, you may not. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I had a 4-8 as well. It's just what I've seen the last, even in last week's loss. This team's capable of more than that. I think between West Virginia and I think OSU, for sure, those are pretty good indicators of wins, as long as we keep, knock on wood, our quarterback the rest of the season. Because we obviously don't have any depth behind him. What I saw of Cam Fancher, I don't think he's capable of running this team. I'm not sure that they didn't trot him out there to try to motivate Jackson to step up, right? So to me, I think at the end of the day, as long as we keep Jackson as quarterback, I think this is a bowl team. Will we win the bowl game? Who knows? But I do think it's a bowl team, even after seeing them play against KSU. Did they make mistakes? Yeah, but everything pretty much went wrong. And we were playing the Zebras on the Serengeti or on the Prairie at Kansas State. So, I don't think this team's that bad. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about this week is Grinch. A lot of people were talking about Grinch before the season, how he's a terrible defensive coordinator and all of that other stuff. And this week, you hear some of the fan base saying Grinch's defense was bad. Listen, they were on the field because of our poor offensive showing. They were on the field for 3/4 of a half, or it's actually more than that because we only had the ball 8 minutes out of 30, right? So, when you have situations like that, and because they were turnovers, they were short fields. It wasn't like they had the full length of the field. By and large, this defense, even against Kansas State, played fairly well, and that showed itself in the PFF numbers as well. This defense is good. What I like, and I said this on a couple of forums, what I like from this defense that I'm seeing is they're in the right spots, right? They know what they're doing. There are multiple hats to the football on every single play, especially when they're not being held or tackled. And their communication pre-snap. I've seen a huge difference in the pre-snap communication of this team versus the last 4 years under Gus Malzahn. They're communicating well. You're seeing the hand signals. You're seeing them move people pre-snap, which tells me that there's recognition of what the offense is trying to do. And that's largely because our linebacker core, I think, is the best that it has been in the past probably 3 years. Between Cole Kozlowski and Lewis Carter, both of those guys are pretty good linebackers. So I think that's a big piece of it. And I think once we get Bell back, Bell and Bellamy are pretty good. And we're pretty good at the safety spot. This week, our D-line was neutralized by holding and tackling. So do I think Grinch is still the right guy for our defense? Yes. Do I see them playing better on all those areas fundamentally? Yes. Josh says, I want you to win so bad, Alan. I thought you said, I want you so bad, Alan, when I first read that.
That's your mind, not mine. I don't know where your mind's going.
No, he was definitely not.
So I will agree with you on the Alex Grinch thing. I don't think he's nearly as bad as, I mean, yes, he's had a pretty bad record over the years, but I was expecting a lot less from his defense. And I think that, I agree with you that we're seeing a lot better things than I was expecting from the defense. But I still think if you get, dominated in the trenches on both sides of the ball, you're going to lose games. So
I agree. And I think that might be a size thing too, because if you look at the lines, the size.
We're a little smaller.
Yeah, we're smaller on the lines for sure.
Was expected 100% with Scott Frost offense and defense, really. Scott Frost offense, I was really expecting our guys to be a little bit small on the offensive line, but they have to move a little bit more. So he wants athletic guys up there, not necessarily the biggest guys. And I think, over time you're going to see, obviously, this being his first year and having a very short recruiting ability, that's going to get a little bit better, obviously. And I think they'll probably start getting to work in the portal as quickly as possible to shore up some offensive linemen.
Well, they have to, because now there's only one portal. The NCAA came back and reduced it from 2 to 1 portal cycle, and that's in the fall. So they're gonna have to do that.
So far, I don't think any of our players though have opted out, which is good.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
Which there's a lot of other teams that have a lot of players that have. So because this week was the 4th week, so.
And a lot of coaches too. I mean, you just saw Sam Pittman's out at Arkansas, and by the way, that also means that our former defensive coordinator is also out at Arkansas as well. So let's go ahead and take a view forward. Actually, before we do that, where do we go from here as a fan base and as a football team? I think that Andrew, you're basically saying this is about as good as it's going to get. When we play.
I don't know about that, but I don't know if I'm not. I think it's going to get a little bit better, but you're coming up in the meat of the season. You're just going to. There's going to be some games that are going to go really, really bad. I think with that. There's going to be some that aren't going to be as bad. I guess that's the most generic thing I can say, obviously, but there's a lot more high-powered teams out there than K-State. And even some of the ones that you mentioned, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, might be better than K-State. So
I don't think so. I really don't.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
That fact that you think this team is exactly what you saw this past week. I mean, our team can be better than we saw. Now, we're not certain of that. And I will tell you this, from everything I'm hearing, it sounds like if Jackson isn't our quarterback, AP's right. Like, I think if David Jackson isn't our quarterback, we might be hoping to get to 4-8.
I would
Possibly.
like to see Flancher again, just to see what he's got.
I feel like
I mean-
I feel like the best option for us to do well is with him healthy or healthy enough to play. I feel like Cam is going to probably be number 2 if he's feeling well enough.
Supposedly he's there.
So, but I think to get to at least a bowl game or where it seems like where we can get there, we need to have Jackson as the QB. If
I 100% agree with that.
so,
Well, we
so I
thought
think where
maybe
we
he went
went,
down with a collarbone injury or something. If he would have done that, man, woo,
yeah,
that would have been that would have been bad.
And we already are in the how many years without a injury-free season? Is it like almost a decade? So I think where we go.
The last time that we had a season where we had the quarterback the entire season, right? So this is predating Mackenzie Milton. If you're talking regular season, it would be Mackenzie Milton, but he obviously got hurt on the last one. We had another quarterback come in, right?
Yeah.
But before that, I think you have to go all the way back to Blake Bortles was the last one to complete an entire season,
which is absolutely insane. And I say, what's up next? It's Kansas, right? Up next is Kansas, and where we go from here is focusing on Kansas and figuring this out and coming home where we're going to be at night, not at 11 in the morning. We'll know who is on the injury report. We'll know what to expect. We'll be in our backyard. It's a team that seems, I know we're a home dog, but a team that can be beaten. Maybe. I don't know. AP will tell us.
Well,
I think up next is focusing on the next thing, because not only is that the truth, the reality is Kansas is also not blowing people out of the water all the time. And this might be.
They just got beat by Cincinnati last week.
And
with 600 yards of offense.
Yeah. So it's we focus on Kansas and see what we got. I think that's where we go next.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to play game by game. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. I don't think this team is what we showed at Kansas State. We made so many mistakes this game, and I'm not saying that, and we were still in the game. I mean, could have very easily had that turnover, had that drop not turned into a turnover, even with a short field, and several short fields for K-State. We have a good enough defense that it's going to keep us in games. It's just going to be a question of how does the offense do? And they were completely off in the first half of this game. And then we were playing from behind. So I do think that this team will play better than what it does. I wouldn't put too much stock into KSU. I do want to switch it to our Kansas preview, which Andrew will help us with. And then I have my own thoughts on this. My thought is Kansas is a more dangerous team than what Kansas State is, personally, going into that.
Way more.
So I'm going to start, and I'm not feeding into, remember, Andrew played for Kansas. He was a defensive back for Kansas way back in the day in 1953. But, he, 96, I know.
Graduated in 96.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about Kansas, and then I'll fill in some things that I've noticed as well.
Well, when both teams are playing at the same time, I'm watching the UCF game, just so you know. I did not watch the Kansas game live because I was watching the UCF game. They played at the exact same time. Really didn't even check in on it too much. I recorded it, so I was able to watch it later on. The defense was very porous last game to let Cincinnati score or rack up 603 yards or something like that. I'll have to look at my notes here. 603 yards, 388 yards passing, and 250 or 215 yards rushing. Kansas is dangerous when Jaden. I can't even think of his name. Jalen Daniels is healthy. I didn't think that he looked extremely healthy this week. It looked like he was moving kind of slow. I think I said in our chat when I said something about it that he looked sore this week. Who knows what that is? Kansas did not have their running back Highshaw since the West Virginia game. He's been kind of not doing well and didn't play last week at all. So LaShawn Williams actually ran for Kansas last week, which he's not really the same kind of player. He's their leading guy now because he's played the last couple of games. 10 carries for 64 yards in the Cincinnati game, but his season stats are a little bit better than that. The glaring difference is total offense, to be honest with you. Now, keep in mind, if you're looking at stats between Kansas and UCF, Kansas had one more game that they've played. So that's going to be a little skewed. But total offense for Kansas at this point is 2,253 yards to UCF's 1,750. 23 touchdowns to 17. Points per game, 36.6 for Kansas, UCF 34.8. Rushing yards, it's basically 100 yards more, but passing yards is quite a bit more. When Jalen Daniels can run and pass, you're going to have issues. He can let go of the ball sometimes when he gets dropped. He can try to make things happen when sometimes it ain't going to happen. So he's a playmaker. He tries to make things happen and, is pretty successful a lot of the time in making things happen. He's really the key to the entire thing, though. So if he goes down, I don't really know totally what's behind him. Obviously, they've got some guys. They've got a guy, Cole Ballard, who's a big quarterback who can get stuff done as well. Like I said, LaShawn Williams, he's averaging 6.4 right now for running Highshaw. When he was averaging 5.1. So he's in that same Miles Montgomery area. But, got some fast receivers as well. There's a lot of speed on Kansas Jayhawks. They have a very high-powered offense as far as it's a basically an air raid offense. They can move fast at times. They can move slow at times as well. But it's spread and it's all over the place. There's lots of crazy formations in the backfield on the offense. You've seen some where there's been 4 people in the backfield. So they're coached very, very well. And I think that's the thing that has obviously made Kansas, step up in the last couple of years is that head coach that they've got, Lance Leipold. He has done great things in every division that he's ever been in. I've always said everything that he does everything that he touches turns to gold. So, that's exciting, and it's an exciting brand of football. I think that UCF is going to have a little problem with Jalen Daniels. If they had problems last week with Kansas State and their quarterback, I think Jalen Daniels is really going to be a problem unless they can contain him. So, defense-wise, obviously, they've had some issues, especially last week. Before that, they looked fairly decent, though. What else? I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I've watched more UCF football than I have Kansas this year.
Well,
So,
I think your point is 100% valid. This team in this game will go the way of Jalen Daniels and how well he plays.
100%.
So, he's been injury prone. He's been with Kansas for 5 years.
6 years.
Literally. Oh, is this his sixth? Oh, yeah,
This
you're
is
right.
his
This
sixth
is
year.
sixth year
Yep.
because of medical red shirts.
He sat out 2 years.
Yep. So this season he's averaging a 67% completion percentage, so he can throw it, and he's averaging 9.9 yards per attempt. That's the thing that really jumps out at me. Yeah, over his entire career, he's been between 8.8 and 9.9. So he can sling the rock downfield. He's got 16 TDs through the air, 2 interceptions. So TD to interception ratio is phenomenal. And his longest was 93. Now rushing, as you said, he's a dual threat, and as I said, he's a dual threat. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry. He's got 1 TD. So this is a guy who can make things happen if a play breaks down. He's got the speed and the ability to make a difference there. And then
he's got the most carries on the team, by the way, as well. So 40 is the highest, with LaShawn Williams being 38 behind him for 214 yards. So,
yeah, and the other thing that gets me with them is they will go for it on 4th down.
absolutely.
They've done it 11 times this season, and they've got it 72% of the time. So their 3rd down percentage is only 32%, which is relatively low, right? But their 4th down conversions are 72.73%. So what we have to do in order to be successful against this offense is, as you said, contain Jalen Daniels, and 2, make sure that we're putting them behind the sticks enough that they won't go for it on 4th and short, and stop them early in a series, right? So the first set of downs that they have, if we can stop them and get them off the field, then we're going to be in a much better situation, and have the ability to win. But because otherwise, if we allow them to control the clock, their average time of possession is 29:02. So we can't let them control the clock. We can't let him get out of the pocket if the play breaks down. It's not, and he will have design runs as well. But the big thing for him is getting him down early, getting off the field early, and making sure that if we get pressure on him, we don't let him get loose. And that was one thing that we didn't do well in the first half. The second half, we did a lot better at shutting down the running game for Avery Johnson, and it rattled him. He had to go through the air, and that's where he made mistakes. We tried to control clock and run against this team last week. We just didn't do a very good job in the first half, got behind, and then we got away from the game plan. And that's what you saw. If our defense continues to step up, we don't leave them on the field for 22 of the 30 minutes in the first half, I think this team can play a lot better, because defensively, Kansas has shown the propensity to have gaps, and we can take advantage of that as an offense, but we will not win in a shootout. We have to get them off the field early in the downs, put them behind down and distance. He can pass the ball. If we get Bell back this week, we won't know that until Thursday when the injury reports are released. But if we get Bell back this week, I have confidence in our defensive backs and our safety position that we'll be able to keep up with the wide receivers. And if we do that, that gives our defensive line time to get after the quarterback. So to me, again, If we can get them off the field early, if we can get them not allow 4 or 5 yards on first down, or we get ahead of them early, I think that is going to be the keys to us beating Kansas. They're going to be a tough out because offensively they play really, really well. I don't wish injury on anyone. We put, I think it was a grand total of 4 or 5 quarterbacks out of games this season. We had our fair share of it last week. So, I don't wish that on anybody, especially with him. I think he had knee injuries both times, ACLs, if I'm not mistaken.
Back injury as well. That was the one that held him out for last year or the year before last. It was a back injury.
But this Jalen was a guy that was considered for Heisman contention, was getting Heisman noise early on in the season before he got injured. So he is a very, very good quarterback. He's a very, very dangerous quarterback. And he's going to be the key to our success if we win. So
he is an absolute athlete. So, it's just a different thing if you look at the K-State quarterback versus him. Just a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Josh, anything you want to add to this?
Nah, I'm looking forward to this game. It's interesting because we all know who the first 3 opponents were, and forget game 1 a little bit while trying to figure things out. Those happened how they should have. And if people were being relatively objective preseason, if we were 3-1 at this point in this year, most people would probably agree with that. So they'd be shocked if it was 4-0. They're really, really upset if it was anything less than 2-2. So Kansas is going to be interesting. They have experience. Lance Leipold is a phenomenal coach and does great things and has a lot of continuity and consistency with what and how he does things. So I think this is going to be a close game. I'm hoping it's going to be a close game. I'm just waiting to see it in person.
Well, the spread is 4.5. Kansas is favored by 4.5. The home team usually gets 3 points, so basically they're expecting a touchdown win for Kansas. The over is 55 points, so the Vegas is thinking like a 30-ish to 20-something type of game. So I don't think this is going to be like a blowout, but if we can get up early and we can contain Jalen Daniels or keep them behind the sticks, because they will go on 4th down in the first set of downs, that I think we have a chance at winning this game. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about our score predictions. Well, first we'll go over the score predictions from last week, and then we'll talk about the score predictions for this week as well. So last week, I was definitely the loser. I had us 42-17, and honestly, had things swung a different way on a few of these games, that might have been a 42 point game for UCF, but it wasn't. So Allen guessed 27-17, so he was off by 24 points. Ben was this week's big winner. He guessed 27-24 UCF, 17-point differential. I was off by 39 points. Josh had the game at 38-17, so 35-point spread. Trey had 31-20. He was off by 25. AP had 34-21. He was off by 27. Tim had it at 31-21, was off by 25 points. And Mark had 35-31, so he was off by 18. So second place. All right. So those were the results for last week. Let's talk about this week. I'm going to go with AP first. AP, what do you think on this game? Who wins and what's the score?
Oh, man, I hate to do this. I'm going to pick Kansas. I'm going to say 31-24 Kansas.
All right. Josh?
I just can't do it. I have a feeling, AP's not wrong, but I can't do it. Although I feel like it's a very similar score. I think I was going to go 31-30, like really tight, really close. 31-30 Knights. I just can't. I might feel it. It might happen. I just can't.
It's hard for me to pick.
I get it.
This
No, I
game.
get it.
I mean, like it's hard.
Well,
and
that's
I
the thing, like-
normally, if you go back and look, I very rarely have picked the opponent to win, but this one is a little different for me. So
yeah, and it's a fair thing. I mean, if you are being objective about it and not a homer or or just a fanatic, objectively, if you played the game 100 times and you simulated it, I'm pretty sure Kansas is winning over 50 in a computer simulation, maybe even 60 or 70. So I get it.
Speaking of simulations,
Oh boy.
I have some simulation data.
Okay.
And it has Kansas a 61% probability and UCF being 39.
I mean,
is this the FPI?
No, this was AZ Central win probability.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, that was off the top of my head, but just kind of knowing the teams and kind of understanding that's
Capper Tech also has 36-29. So there's quite a few out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we didn't get anybody else's scores this week. It's been a rough week for us as far as participation. Life happens. Even mid-season, but I've got us at 34-28 UCF. I'm not going to pick against UCF. I do think Kansas can and will score. I think if we are to win the game, we will put up at least 34 points because we'll have either turnovers or get the ball back early. No, we don't. I mean, we don't. Because I think Kansas is going to get theirs, but I think UCF, if we're going to win this game, we will get them off the field enough times early where they can't score, right? Or we'll get turnovers that will turn into points. And if we do that, that's going to eliminate the amount of time that Kansas has. If we get them playing from behind, that helps as well. Because
Kansas does not give up the ball very often either. So as far as turnovers go. Yeah.
So for me, I think 34-28 is where it is because I do think, especially if we get Bell back this week, I do think our defensive backs can contain the wide receiving core. So it's all about Daniels, and if we get after Daniels, he will be a focus this week. Maintaining the edge will be a focus this week, and the difference with last week with Avery Johnson, he was a drop back passer all season long. He wasn't in the pass, but he was all season long. So our blitzes went to the middle. They did not do a whole lot of edge contain until the second half when they showed that they would run sideline to sideline, which is what that's what I said last week. That's Avery Johnson's forte, is running sideline to sideline and throwing off of the run. And that's exactly what he did to us this week. We're not going to be surprised this week. I think we all know that the offense, and so do the coaches, is going to run through Jalen Daniels. And I think that we make less mistakes, and I think we contain him on the edge. I think we have good enough defensive backs that we can keep them from doing it through the air. So 34-28 UCF is my prediction for this week. All right, let's go ahead and swiv it again.
Swiv it?
All right. In other UCF news, the Cincinnati game was announced this week, so that will be a noon game. It'll be a nooner and at Cincinnati. So it'll be, that'll be. I don't know if that's one thing I do dislike about the Big 12, especially when we're not doing well, as we get stuck with a lot of these noon games. Although at least it'll be in the same time zone. For the Big 12 as a whole, we still have 4 ranked teams, which is good. For the scores, so for the standings this week, Iowa State checks in at number 1. They are 5-0 overall, and 2-0 in conference. Then it's Arizona State, BYU, Houston, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Utah, Baylor, Kansas, 1-1, 3-2. And the interesting thing is the loss, the in-conference loss and the out-of-conference loss, both of them were away. And then, so they don't play as well on the road as they do at home. Then it's K-State, Arizona, TCU, UCF, Oklahoma State, Colorado, and West Virginia. Man, do I wish we played Colorado this year versus what we did before.
I can't stand Colorado.
Yeah. So as a reminder, this week's game will be on ESPN2 against Kansas. As far as the Big 12 scores, I don't know if this was a good week for us or not. But for week 5,
find out.
Yeah, for week 5, Arizona State beat TCU. I kind of wanted TCU to win that game just from a rankings perspective and a conference rankings perspective. Arizona State was not ranked. They are ranked this week. TCU was number 24. I would have liked to have them win that game. Houston barely beat Oregon State, which is an 0-5 team, which surprised me. They won 27-24 in overtime. So I thought Houston was a better team than that, but I guess not. Arizona lost to Iowa State. Iowa State manhandled them 39-14. BYU barely beat Colorado 24-21, which is a surprise as well. Cincinnati barely beat Kansas 37-34. Baylor whooped up an Oklahoma State 45-27, and Utah whooped up on West Virginia 48-14. And Oklahoma State now is 1-3, 0-1 in the Big 12. Mike Gundy was fired, so they're under a new coaching regime. And West Virginia is 2-3, 0-2 in the Big 12. So again, when we were talking about bowl eligibility, those two I have circled as wins, especially if we become bowl eligible, which means we would have 5 wins there. And we'd only need 1 more to become bowl eligible. So I think don't be too disheartened. Although we said the ceiling for this team this year was probably going to be a bowl game for this year. So who knows what happens in the bowl game? That's going to depend on who we're paired up against. Okay, that's all I have for other UCF news this week, which means we're on to a little bit of listener love. So let's talk about that this week. So Night U 1642 says 5 days ago, I pray. I don't know why. I pray UCF wins this Saturday, but I'm excited. Then we have Spare Room Film says your prayers were answered. It was a boat race that was from the UNC game. Aro Boss, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's at AURO Boss says no upload for the pod. I wanted to talk about that. Nobra is finishing his final semester this season, and he told me this week that he's going to unfortunately have to let me do the production. Typically, he does the post-production stuff and gets everything posted. He has been posting them, but a little bit late on Sundays, which means I'm going to have to take over duties for that. So I will get those out a little bit earlier in the week for everyone, so they will be up as usual. Deborah Grajales, I hope I'm saying that right, 3766. She says 1724 UCF. Wonder UCF says 3110 UCF blowout coming. 19 new subs this week with Andrea. I welcome Andrea Mendoza and Donna Louise to the family. There were others, but of course I cannot see anybody who joins, but welcome to the family. Thank you so much. As a reminder, please subscribe, like, share with your friends. Also from Twitter, welcome to Matt March Hassini, who was our K-State insider last week in AJC 0724. So again, thank you guys. We do this for you. We appreciate it. Normally you're a little bit more lively in the comments. We missed some of our usual suspects. So I don't know if this is a KSU hangover. But make sure you participate. We do include you in the show, and if you comment, we'll include you as well. Thank you so much. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow we're also on X and the other platforms. But we do it for you, so thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and swiv it one more time.
With it, because people think that's the ending of the show with the way you were saying this.
Yeah, I guess. Let's go to Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
Well, in honor of AP, we're not going to do something about Kansas.
You could have done something about Kansas when AP was there. That would have been.
I listen. Well, for good or bad, my business is doing too good, and I'm running out of time in the day. I'm working like 9 to midnight every single night, and it's wonderful. But I have some limited time. At least I'm here. So anyway, the women's soccer team actually beat Arizona State yesterday. If you're watching live, number 17, Arizona State. When's the last time the women's soccer team won a conference win versus a ranked opponent?
Ooh. Andrew?
I say never.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it was in the AAC, though. I'm going to say 2018.
Okay. Who do you think it was against?
I don't remember. Memphis, maybe? I think we beat Memphis back then.
And that might have been true, and you're pretty close. We did beat a ranked opponent. It was the last time was Halloween 2019. So you're really close against the number 24 ranked Cows.
Oh, there we go. So I will say this about that, Andrew. While he was going through that, I was trying to look up your stats from 1996. Unfortunately,
They're hard to find.
Yeah, there are no.
There's not very many of them at all.
Well,
you don't. Stats or locations of the stats.
I was not a guy that was out there very much at all, but
Yeah.
played a lot of practice and got a scholarship my senior year for practicing the entire time.
That's really cool. I mean, did you get do you have was it the billion stat when you come in the last minute of a basketball game and you have 1 minute 0?
Yeah, I had a lot of those like fourth quarter type things and didn't get a lot of stats. So
that's it's still, that is still part of the team. You know that. I don't have to tell you that, but that's still part of the team.
Yeah.
I mean, you need that. I mean, when
I was a guy that in my junior year of high school had to switch positions. I was a quarterback, and then I destroyed my shoulder, and then had to switch to defense after already being recruited and everything. So had to walk on and kind of beg to walk on. So it was one of those kind of things. But
with his position coach, Mr. Terry Mohashi.
He was not my position coach.
Well, he wasn't your position coach. He was your.
He was a GA.
GA, but your position coach was also a former UCF coach, and I can't remember his name right now.
Beatty.
No, not Beatty. That's not who I'm thinking about. Who was the?
No, I'm sorry. Oh my God. Oh, this is bad.
It's been a few years.
It's horrible. It's been a long.
We're getting old.
I think his first name was David. I can't remember.
Huxtable?
Yeah, he was our. Oh my God.
David Gibbs.
Gibbs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gibbs.
Yep.
Oh,
so little did you know that you'd be doing a UCF podcast with.
I know that was weird. The Kansas connections really came hard and heavy there for a while. There was other guys too. So yeah, David Gibbs. Sometimes the older I get, names is like one of those things that I forget, like the thing that I should know, like somebody's name.
That's because you played football at a time where we separated players from the ball with our helmets. So yes. I'm just saying. And
I wish that there was some playback of, well, I'm glad that there's not actually. I'd like to see it, but Somewhere on a VCR tape hidden far, far away in my house, I have when I walked to the wrong huddle on national television. So
Oh God, you gotta get. You can't see that and not get the tape somewhere. You
it was
can't.
against Texas, and I got hit by Ricky Williams, and that was the hardest hit that I've ever had. It's the hardest I've ever been hit in my life with anything.
A friend of mine played for Dunedin. I forgot which one it is. Somewhere, one of those in Florida, and he played against Dante Culpepper in high school football, and he intercepted Dante Culpepper and broke his hand at the same time. I mean, Dante was Dante. It was ridiculous, but like he has the the Al Bundy of like intercepting Dante Culpepper and the realization that he was I would say a Holman level speedster with the ball, but probably even worse. So
I tried a quick search to see if I could find that video, and I could not. But Ricky Williams did start the Concussion Project.
Because he gave a lot of people them.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
no, I had no idea where I was at, obviously. So there was multiple times in my college career that I had no idea. Even in high school, there was a few times. So
I never had that in high school, but I did have a stinger, a pretty big stinger, where I made the cardinal mistake when I first started playing. We were doing Oklahoma drills, and I hit a guy with my head down instead of my head up, and it gave me a real bad stinger where I just kind of like froze and just kind of fell back on my back. And the coach came over and he was like, "You're all right, son, get up." And it took me a couple minutes to get my bearings again where I could stand up. So I learned the hard way that you always keep your head up when you're playing football. But all right, let's go ahead and swivot yet again to a quick update on other UCF sports that Alan and Andrew do not watch, and probably Trey, but that's okay.
So, speaking of women's soccer, as you well know, they are 7-2-1 on the season. They lost last Thursday in the wind and the rain in Tucson, Arizona, and they only lost by a penalty kick that bounced off the post. So they couldn't make it back in those conditions. That happens. Of course, they beat number 17 Arizona State 3-2 yesterday, if you're watching live. So up next are two games at home. They're hosting the Utah Utes on Thursday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. and Kansas State on Sunday, October 5th at 1 p.m. The latter is the annual Black and Gold alumni game. Men's soccer are 2-5-1, so a little different than the women's team. They've lost their second Sun Belt Conference game to a number 10 West Virginia, 0-1 at home. Up next is the conference game versus South Carolina in Columbia, October 4th at 7 p.m. UCF volleyball is 10-3. They won their first conference game of the year versus Cincinnati 3-0. Two more Big 12 games are on the way and happening this week. It's Thursday, October 2nd in Boulder versus Colorado, obviously, at 9 p.m. Eastern, and in Ames on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern versus, of course, Iowa State. Women's golf travels to the Illini Invitational next week at Medina Country Club in Chicago on October 6th and 7th. Men's golf did improve upon that 15th place finish last week when they were up in Cincinnati, with a second place finish at the Ironwood Collegiate Classic in Greenville, South Carolina today. So quickly that UCFKnights.com does not even have a wrap-up. It just has the scores after looking at the schedule. The team finished 15 under. They were 8 strokes behind the host and winner, ECU. The Knights stay in Florida early next week, going to Estero for the island at West Bay Collegiate, hosted by Florida Gulf Coast University. And men's tennis has some things going on. It's interesting because there's no like really good way of explaining it. They won a ton of games up in Tallahassee. I think doubles did not get to the finals. It's an interesting format. I don't quite get it yet. I'm trying to get my handle on it, but if you looked at the list of all the people we beat, we lost one of those singles games. We did really, really well. And the men's individual tournament for NCAA is coming up this semester, if you will. So that's what I have for the sports that Alan, Andrew, and Trey do not watch. But you know what? Roger and I do.
Thank you very much, Josh. And as you can see, I'm trying out some of our new sound effects. But
Where's that coming from?
It's
The
fun.
ether.
Nice, I like it.
It's better when when Roger does it at the end. Doesn't distract me for the entire segment, which it did last week. Better this week, Roger. Good job.
All right, I'm learning. So that being said, men's and women's tennis both did really, really well. I'm excited about where we're at with volleyball. I think they've got a pretty good team. We had some good transfers that came in this past season. So go out and catch some volleyball games or volleyball matches. They're doing really, really, really well. This week for KSU, for KU, I expect us to have learned from KSU and if we can hold Jalen Daniels, I think we'll be good to go. Thank you, everyone, for watching, viewing, commenting. Keep that going. Don't be discouraged. Last week was not what this football team's going to be. Go Knights and
charge on.
Charge on.
All right,
Am I
Josh?
delaying at the end? Why is that happening? Like, perfectly fine.